Karoline Leavitt is actually getting a lot of backlash after saying that Short will be fired, and she actually said this, and Short actually got fired. Let's right into it. Hi, lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Strana. Thank you so much for all the love and support. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and also educate each and every one of us. You guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I came across those touches on my For You, and I thought to share where internet is reacting to the fact that Caroline actually made a statement even before what happened in the dinner correspondent. She goes on to talk about how Short will be fired, and few minutes to hours later, Short actually got fired, and people have been questioning, is this something that is staged or something that they are expecting that was going to happen, even with the statement that the husband made telling her to be very careful? This has caused a lot of people to react and question all of the whole incident that took place. Lovelies, I'm just going to roll the clip as well as some of other stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video, and let's right into it.
Karoline Leavitt goes on the carpet and says that Shots will be fired tonight, and moments later, Shots were fired. Trump leaves without being roasted. Word on the street is that there were not even any comics invited to the Correspondents' dinner. So how were there going to be funny, humorous roasting Shots fired if there are no comedians present? Because those were not the type of shots she was speaking about, as we later came to find out. So Trump leaves, and he gets a sympathy tour. And Trump's $400 million ballroom that's been blocked in court suddenly gets emergency legislation within 24 hours. So the same night that Karoline Leavitt did that interview saying Shots will be fired, her husband leans over to a Fox News correspondent sitting at the Correspondents' dinner and told her to be very safe, looked around the room and said there's some serious... But then the call drops mid-sentence and she's never reconnected. They never bring her back on air. Did you know this was Trump's first time ever attending a presidential correspondence dinner as a sitting president? Do you know why he never goes? Why he always skips it? Because they roast him. And Humpty Trumpty cannot take a joke about himself. But this year he shows up and magically gets to leave before they even roast him, whoever was going to roast him. Because again, supposedly there were no comedians present. So no punchlines, no embarrassment, no footage of him sitting there with a scowl on his face as a comedian drags him for filth. Instead, he gets to be the hero dragged out under fire. How convenient. And of course, then we see Trump on Truth Social saying, this would have never happened in my big, beautiful ballroom. Build it now. Justification for the $400 million ballroom that the courts have blocked. Then a Republican senator announces emergency legislation to fast track it with funding. Then the DOJ sends a letter to the preservation group who is suing to stop it, the National Trust of Historic Preservation. And the DOJ is telling them to stop and drop their lawsuit in the light of what happened last night. And all of this happened before the blood from the shot that was fired was even dried. We happen to know that Humpty Dumpty's polls are in the garbage. The people who have voted for him are being destroyed by his tariffs. They were promised cheap eggs and they got a trade war. They were promised deportations and they got billionaire tax cuts. His own base is starting to turn on him. But nothing unites a base like seeing that their leader is under attack. This is not new. This is the oldest play in the authoritarian playbook. Manufacture a threat, become the martyr, and you reset the loyalty clock. Now the suspect, Cole Allen, 31 from California, allegedly emails a manifesto to his family, laying out his targets and ranking them by seniority. He was also staying at the hotel as a registered guest. And he got through security checkpoints with a handgun, a shotgun, and knives, even though people are saying that there were lacking in some of the security concerns here. At the correspondent dinner, it was comparatively lax when it comes to events that the president is going to attend. But this happened at what the FBI officials are saying, that their security was almost on a level of national security event. So... And then you have Humpty Trumpty get up on the podium and say that this whole thing was religiously motivated. A religious thing, strongly anti-Christian. But there's no evidence of this. This is just his narrative. This is simply just his framing. Why? Because the Christian nationalist base needs a new villain that's not Humpty Trumpty's economy and his policies. And watch how that framing is going to get repeated on every right-winged news outlet that there is this week. Now, I'm not saying this wasn't real. Is it possible this could have been the actions of a deeply disturbed person or a person who is thinking clearly, just didn't have the opportunity to get the right shot in? Sure. But here's what I teach my kids, okay? When powerful people benefit immediately, consistently, and across multiple fronts from a single event, that is when you start asking questions. Because the receipts don't match the story. And until they do, we're going to keep digging.
Nicole sprinted past security to just fire shots randomly in the air and throw his life away. Got it.
Remember when Rosemary's mama said this?
Nature, as you know, I'm not part of the president's political team anymore.
After the incident at Correspondents, the geriatric Gen Zer decided to go to X and leave this statement. Pause to read. Hold for jump scare. And this was supposed to be a fun night. And I'm going to be the first one to say it. I think I see it. I see what she sees in him because they do be looking similar ages. Anyway, to what she said about not being on his political team. But I said about it all being convenient for her when she needs it. I need you to look at these posts knowing that this chick doesn't do anything by accident. Except for maybe the Botox bruises, but this is what she posted on her Instagram. Okay. She's presenting herself in a position of power. Not done yet. Next to Whiskey Pete, Ashley Furniture. In the Oval with Nosferatu. Sad Marco looking for his polo. Pete reaching for his, I'm sure, just Diet Coke. There she is over here. Totally not part of the political team. She wants you to know she has power. She's gonna come back to this job. Giving herself a pretty good off-ramp either way, though. Yeah. Political violence has no place anywhere, obviously. These people either just evil and terrible at their jobs, or they are evil and using this as a commercial for the Golden Ballroom. What do you think?
There are a few more things I find interesting about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Number one, Karoline Leavitt being interviewed right before the event, saying that there will be shots fired. There will be shots fired. Now, obviously, it could just be a coincidence. It could just be a poor turn of phrase. But also, Karoline Leavitt is about to go on maternity leave. Karoline Leavitt doesn't think she's coming back to a job. So could it be that a disgruntled White House press secretary who's upset that she's losing her job for the audacity of getting pregnant again, and who overheard or was told about a false flag operation that was about to happen at the White House Press Correspondents' Dinner, a correspondence dinner that is involving all of her friends in the press corps that she's made over the last year? You don't think she could have heard about this and got upset about it and decided to put a clue in the media before the event just in case, as a final middle finger out the door? Number two, out of all the people who are on stage at the event, the person who looks the most shocked is Melania. So just imagine telling your press secretary about the false flag operation you're about to pull, but not your wife? Number three, did anybody else notice how quickly the Secret Service worked to get J.D. Vance off stage? Meanwhile, they let Trump just kind of meander and dawdle his way off? So, if this was a real lone wolf attempt to assassinate the president, that's a little bit interesting, isn't it? Or it's also possible that J.D. Vance's team just wasn't given a heads up. Kind of like Melania. It's possible we're getting a sense of the pecking order in real time. And finally, just note all those happy, smiling faces right after an assassination attempt. The president, vice president, members of his cabinet, and the first lady were all in mortal danger just moments ago, and yet they're all smile. It looks less like a group of people that experienced a traumatic event together, and more like a theater troupe that just had a successful opening night. Just like we rehearsed it, everybody. Well done.
Ma'am, can you comment on tonight's White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Yes, it's going to be crazy. Shots will be fired.
Ma'am, what do you mean by shots will be fired?
I mean, there is literally going to be a gunman with a firearm firing inside the building. And his name is Donald J. Trump. Also, it's called the Gulf of America now.
So we all agree that that was fake. That was not real. That was staged. Because how do we have 37 angles of HD footage of an alleged active pew-pew event? If it was staged, it makes the Secret Service look incompetent AF. And if it was real, it makes the Secret Service look incompetent AF. What do you mean? Y'all are just running around with rifles and pistol. Over here, over there, clear. Where is he? What's going on? Is this a stage play written by a 4-year-old? You know what? Actually, this was written by that man that wrote the drama. This is a European take on American.
Be sure to watch. Shots will be fired. This was said before the Correspondents' Dinner by Karoline Leavitt, and none of this is connected.
I'm already seeing so much misinformation going around about tonight. Mentalists don't predict the future. You're thinking of psychics. Mentalists guess your card. They guess what's inside the envelope. Why did the mentalists see this coming? That's not what they do. Stop talking about shit you don't understand. Keep your ignorance limited to something trivial like politics. Do not put this failure on Oz Perlman. This is a psyop by the Secret Service to pass the buck on their pathetic security failure. If he wasn't there, they'd probably blame the fucking caterers. It's easier than admitting they suck. I forbid you from talking about this topic until you properly educate yourself. I did close-up mentalism in middle school, all right? I know what I'm talking about. I did close-up mentalism until my Catholic school principal threatened to expel me for performing sorcery beyond my grade level. Yeah, advanced algebra, acceptable. Card tricks, heresy. All right. I don't think y'all realize just how close we came to an absolute tragedy tonight. We nearly lost America's only competent mentalist. We would have had to settle for fucking Chris Angel.
Tonight is in any way. In light of the fact that there was just a shooter at the White House Correspondents' Center, I want you to watch this clip of an interview Karoline Leavitt gave a few minutes before the start of the Correspondents' Center tonight.
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
And look, I am not making the assertion that what she just said, that there will be some shots fired tonight, is in any way related to what happened like 15 minutes after this interview. But I think it's worth pointing it out to y'all just because we all know exactly how they would handle it were the situation reversed. We all know exactly the kind of conspiracy theories that would already be popping up all over right-wing internet right now. And again, I'm not saying that those things are related. I am, however, saying that the White House Correspondents' Center has incredibly tight security. This is not an outdoor rally where someone can just be on top of a building. This is an indoor event with multiple layers of security. And those layers of security are run by the Secret Service and the FBI because of who is in attendance for these events. And I just want everybody to keep that in mind in the coming hours as people start spouting off online about this, because I am very, very concerned that this is going to be used as an excuse for further crackdown on the media. I am very concerned he's going to find a way to somehow blame this on the press, and all of his little lemmings are going to follow right along. So just do your best to not feed into that, y'all. And if you're somebody on the right and you're feeling tempted to start spreading those kinds of conspiracy theories, just keep in mind there is a video clip of your girl less than 30 minutes before what happened saying the phrase, "There will be some shots fired tonight." So keep that in mind before we start going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, my friend.
Surrounding Karoline Leavitt and the alleged firing of shots tied to the White House Correspondents' Dinner has quickly turned into one of those moments where politics, media spectacle, and internet cultural all collide. And once that happens, separating fact from narrative becomes almost impossible. At the center of this controversy is the perception that Leavitt made a bold or premature statement, suggesting that shot will be fired, only for that outcome to actually happen afterward. This sequence alone is enough to ignite public suspicions. In today's digital environment, timing is everything. When someone appears to predict an outcome that later becomes reality, people just don't see coincidence. They see coordination, influence, or even manipulation. What's fascinating is how quickly the public split into different camps. One side, you have those who believe the entire situation was organic. Leavitt may have been speaking from insider knowledge, political instinct or simply making a strong statement that ended up being accurate. From this perspective, Washington is a place where decisions are often anticipated before they are announced, and insiders talk in ways that sound prophetic to outsiders. On the other hand, there is a growing group of skeptics who think the whole thing feels too convenient. For them, the idea that a public figure would openly suggest something firing and then it happened raises questions. Was this a leak disguised as commentary? Was it intentional signaling? Or even part of broader strategy to control the narrative before the official decision dropped? Then you have the more conspiratorial angle, which is where social media really talk and takes over. Some users begin suggesting the situation was staged entirely, that the comments and the firing were part of the coordinated media moment designed to generate attention, distracting from something else, or reinforcing a particular political image. This is where speculation tends to outsource evidence, but it spread quickly because it tapped into broader distrust. People already have towards political institution and media events. Another layer that caught people's attention is the personal dynamic being discussed online, particularly the idea that someone close to Leavitt, like her husband, should have advised her to watch or what she says. That criticism isn't really about the fact of the situation. It's about expectation. But the thing is that people often expect public figures, especially in high-stake political environment, to be tightly controlled, calculated, and strategic at all time. So when people appears to speak too freely, it's interpreted as either a mistake or a signal of something deeper. It's always and always a double abandoned in their reaction. Public figures are often criticized both for being too scripted and for being too candid. If Leavitt had said nothing, people might accuse her of hiding information. By saying something bold, she opened herself up to scrutiny from every angle, whether justified or not. What this entire situation really highlights is how the modern audience processes political events. It's no longer just about what happened, it's about how it looks, how quickly it happened, and how it fits into existence narrative. People already believe. Trust in institution is low, so even straightforward events get filtered through suspicious. In reality, moments like this are often less dramatic than they appear. Political circles are filled with rumors, expectation, and behind the scenes conversation. Someone making a statement that later proves true doesn't necessarily mean ostracisms. It can also mean they were closer to the information than the public. Still, perception is powerful. Once the idea of setup or staging enters the conversation, it takes a long of its own. And in a media environment driven by engagement, this theory spread faster than any official explanation could ever be. So, what you're left with is not just a theory about a comment and a firing, but a case study in how quickly public trust functions, how narrative from a real time, and how every political movement now doubles as a piece of content, open to interpretation, suspicious, and debate. And I must actually agree, even though this lady know or doesn't know that might be short, but she openly said it. All of this actually look staged in one essence, but then again, reports happening that people were injured might actually prove otherwise. Anyway, love, please, not just leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. Lovelies, if you have not subscribed to this channel, do your girl a huge favor to click on the subscription button, like, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one. If you have not subscribed to this channel, do your girl a huge favor to click on the subscription button, like, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.